Everybody, Texas Trucker here, Lance's Performance Shop, Lone Star Mopars.com. It is Tuesday night, 9 p.m. exactly. It's another hot one in the shop. Overcast, stormy outside, but that just adds humidity to the heat. So I think it's about 94 in here when I came in around 8:30. But in our last tool haul, or not quite sure where these videos will fall, but I was in a hurry, losing my voice, super hot, had a lot going on. Didn't want to take the time to break the thing down completely. And subsequently, I promised some standalone videos, and this standalone video is going to be regarding the item that you can't see well there because of space constraints. So let's drop it down. This is Gedore's 107. And if you're thinking, hey, is that a torque wrench? Is it a giant, 36 millimeter wrench again? A crescent? Something special? A socket set? Not quite. You can probably see something in there. Once again, we'll tilt this back a little bit. Just take my word for it. Gedore 107. And this is, of course, from KC Tool. We'll have links down below. The price for this set, $118.19, typically $139-ish. More on that in just a second. I believe I got it for a little bit less than that. But if you see here, we've got a wooden stand. Now, we've brought in a wood stand from Gedore before, and ironically, it's because I plan to populate it with pins, possibly precision screwdrivers, and actually my intention was to see how I liked it, bring in another one to populate it with cold chisels and punches. Before we get too much farther into this one, since we're already talking prices, if you like what you see here but you're kind of not wanting to go full tilt, or you don't need as much, or you prefer to piece together your own set based on your needs or what you frequently use, Gedore has part number 106, and it comes in two configurations. You can get in a plastic holder, and literally just picture 6 slots here standing up. It's actually not even slotted, it's just pegged together. But a plastic holder that would stand upright or lay flat in a toolbox. $47.50. For an extra $8, you can get a metal case. The metal case one, of course, being $55.50. The contents I painstakingly went over. I made sure they were exactly the same, whether you go plastic or metal. They would pair beautifully, as best I know, into this. Maybe if something wouldn't fit, I believe they all would. But, that's kind of what this, I believe, was intended for. However, like I said, my thoughts were I was going to buy that separate, and then I was going to get the metal case, and then if I found I liked them better on the bench, or if that failed miserably for screwdrivers, that was the route I was going to go. Now, what that 6-piece set would have, it would have a 4mm center punch, a 125 and 150mm flat cold chisel, a 125mm crosscut chisel, 3mm drift punch, and a 4mm pin punch. Again, plastic or metal case. Whether you buy them, they'll plug in here just fine. I couldn't see any issue for them not to, in fact. And if you're thinking, okay, well, hey, this is the 107. You've got 12 slots. You've got 12 chisels, punches, some combination thereof. I bet that overlaps. It actually does not. There are a couple of pieces that do. The center punch that we're going to take a look at will be the same in this set and our 6-piece set. In terms of the flat cold chisels, where that one had a 125 in the 6-piece set with a 150, we have a 150 and a 200. That's probably where this big oval slot is going to come into play. So with plastic or metal casing, you're limited to 150mm overall length on anything. We've got a 200 in here. You can easily spot it. Sticks out like a sore thumb. The crosscut chisel in that one is 125. Ours going to be a little bit bigger at 150mm. And then they have one drift punch at 3mm. We will actually have a 2, 3, 4, and 5. Again, this is denoted so you kind of have a feel for what's different between the sets. And then lastly, the 6-piece set has a 4mm pin punch. We don't have a 4mm pin punch, but we have a 2, 3, and a 5. So, as I mentioned, if you know what you frequently use, if there's one size in particular or two that you're always using, you could pick up that 6-piece stand, you could pair it with this, you could get the 6-piece set, plastic or metal case, get the wooden stand, build it to suit, and we'll kind of cover why I'm mentioning that towards the end of the video. But this is our wooden stand. As you can see, this one is 12 slots, lots of real estate on the back for personalization. Interestingly, no hardware down below, and I say that because, again, we've got our 6 piece holder here, and you can clearly see we've got some Torx fasteners 2 places there. So and of course this did not come with it. That is from the KC Tool German sticker pack, which I realize now I don't believe I got in that last order. Got the t-shirt when I don't think I should have, because we had to lose the super cutters, but we didn't get the sticker pack, which we should have had. But no big deal. We've got a ton of these, and yes, something similar will probably go on the back. Might see if we can peg down a KC Tool, possibly some others, because again, we can put whatever brand we want. If I want to throw some Starretts in here, we can do that. But I want to highlight this again. This is something I don't want to do in a tool haul, but that is a sick looking little trolley service cart. Now the sad thing is, you know, if you're used to, say, tool truck prices where these are pretty expensive, think of that and then multiply it. Sadly, I'm sure if we were across the pond we could score them a little bit cheaper, but that is not the case for us here in America at this point in time. They've got some pretty cool stuff, particularly Hazet. I've kind of been interested in a lot that they've got. Now, as I mentioned, this box basically sat and rode all the way from Kansas to Amarillo on top of the Hazet multifunctional drain pen, but it didn't break. It kind of tore in a place or two, but it didn't break, and that's what's important. So but here we are. This is everything. This is literally how they come packed. There's no foam, there's no bubble wrap. I remember some of German tool reviews videos, not quite sure what items, might have been from Gedore, but there were several times I saw where things were just kind of loose in the box, and that's how this is. It got here. I mean, that's fine, but it would be kind of nice to maybe see some wrapped paper, some bubble, you know, some packing peanuts, something, because you can clearly imagine these sliding back and forth in a very, very thin cardboard box. But the main thing is they're not going to get damaged. It's just your packaging. You know, if you cared to keep it or wanted to, or we're going to gift it to someone, then that might become an issue. Nonetheless, that is really all there is here. Now, I do have this Gedore cable knife, which I swear is the most ridiculously difficult to open knife I have ever owned, and I have opened it multiple times, hoping that it would just break in and oh yeah, it's fine now. But it made sense to me, since we are dealing with Gedore stuff here, go ahead and use a Gedore knife. So we'll set that guy off to the side, and let's kind of drop these suckers out again. This is going to be our 200mm big boy, 95-200. I do like that we actually have the part number stamped in these. That way, if you love this, or a buddy comes over to your shop and is like, man, what is that? I've got to get one. Instead of telling them, oh, it's a Gedore cold chisel, you can actually clearly have the part number right there. This is stamped. It's not etched. It's not engraved. It's stamped. That's deep. It's going to last a long, long time, even if that slips and slides across hard surfaces. So that way, if you need to reorder, or somebody's impressed by what you got and they want to replicate it at their own shop, easy to do so. Let's go ahead and see if we can get the big pour here. Beautiful. So once again, we've got 3 slots, kind of oval. Let me tilt that down for you. Obviously, one's bigger than the other 2. And then we've got 3, 6, and 9. So we've got 12 total slots available. Obviously, it's a 13-piece set if we were to include the stand. But let's make sure that sucker fits. It does beautifully. Very nice tolerances there. Is it loose? Just a shade, but I mean, it has to be. You don't want to have to come in and actually blunt force trauma the tip getting it into the stand, because let's face it, the stand wouldn't last. But I think what I will do here is cut real quick, kind of divide these instead of just sitting here and shuffling through them with you, wasting your time. We'll go ahead, get these divided, go over what's included, what the prices are, and then take it from there. And we are back. We've got everything kind of laid out in groups, and I figured, hey, why not go ahead and use this Gedore ballpoint pen for our pointer. I had to take that call. I had to help my nephew out with some homework. Finally back to school that time of year. But essentially, we've got everything divided up, and let's just start at the top. We've got 2 chisels here. They're both flat cold chisels. Part number 95-200 and 95-150. Same thing. We're just going to have 150mm and 200mm overall length. Again, this sucker right here is not available in either of those 6-piece sets because it's simply too big for the cases. Very, very impressive, I've got to say, right out of the box. The cutting edge looks pretty sharp, pretty well done in my opinion, and it's pretty pretty beefy, I must say. I do want to point out that little flyer that was included. I was thinking of this the other night and then just remembered it. Why do you find single products with different logos in this tool set? This is again something I believe I also saw in a German tool reviews video. I think it had a socket or torque sockets or something, but Gedore actually changed their logo, and this kind of explains it. Quite simple. From January 2016, Gedore presents itself in a totally new look. Changeover will take place in steps until all products will be completely available in the new design. Don't worry though, everything is going to be quality. So I thought that was kind of cool. You know, it's rare companies actually, you know, outline that to the end consumer. You know, they might send out like, you know, letters or a press briefing or something to vendors, but to actually package that with the consumer, that way if we came in and we had, say, you know, something stamped and then we had something crazy with their logo, instead of being like, man, is this counterfeit? Especially if you're buying it from, say, Amazon or an unknown third-party seller, that would raise concerns. It's kind of cool to see that in the packaging, and then the end user can say, oh, well, you know, they just updated the logo. We kind of have a mix. That's fine. So that's a good move in my opinion. But again, these are pretty dadgum nice chisels, I have to say. Again, these are the flat cold chisels. These are the only two that were included in this set. And I suppose I should tell you, this is kind of the technical stuff. A little bits above my head. It just basically means we've got a good product. But these are all made from chromoly vanadium. They are hardened and tempered for the full length of the chisel or punch. The striking heads were inductively tempered, and then the working edge, as you can kind of see on the tips each one has, they're going to be polished and then coated with a clear varnish. I also wanted to mention the wooden stand, the dimensions, in case space is a premium or something, or you have a certain area on your bench top cleared for it. 14 3/8 wide, 2 5/8 tall. That's the real estate footprint that one's going to leave. But those are our flat cold chisels. If you wanted to pick those up, again, part numbers we've covered, but you'd be looking at $12.11 for the 150, and then the big 200 would be $16.45. This is the most expensive. The second most expensive is conveniently right here. This is the only cross-cut chisel that's included. It's 150 millimeter, part number 96150. Price on it would be $13.27. Kind of the same design overall. It's just, of course, where that's flat, this is cross-cut, sort of like a wrought iron fence post or something. Then as we come down, you're thinking, oh, hey, you got another flat chisel. Well, technically, the tempered edge is going to be the same, but if you note, not sure how well you can tell, I think from this angle is going to be your best bet. This is actually not flat all the way. Like this, essentially, we've got two sides and then the connections. This is an octagon. It's like a stop sign, if you will. This would be our flat cold chisel that's octagonal. Part number 97125. You probably already can figure this out. Again, this is why I tell you that Vera has such strange part numbers. You can lay this out, you can look at KC Tools listings, and you can figure it out. If you see a 95, you know it's a flat cold chisel, and then the hyphen whatever, 200 or 150, that simply refers to the length. So if I decide that I love these, but I need something shorter, and I want to try and see if there's a 100 millimeter, I can go to KC Tool, I can search for Gedore 95-100. Simple. Same thing right here. Crosscut cold chisel is a 96, and then insert your length, in this case 150. This guy right here is a 97. That would be the flat cold chisel, but again, it's octagonal. It's not going to be the same profile there. So that would be the difference. The cool thing about that, if you don't typically use these, or it's seldom that you use them, when you do have to go for the bigger chisels, you can figure out if you like to hold the flat ones, or if you like something, this would sort of be more like a pen or a pencil type of a grip, and this would kind of be more of like a, you know, just pound it type of a grip, if that makes any sense. And essentially, by having the variety, you can figure out which one you personally prefer, and then again, should you need one, you can say, well, you know, didn't really like that, I want to go with the octagonal, insert your size, call it a day. Next grouping, I should say though, I don't think we mentioned the price. This little guy was going to be $7.28. Now this next group is 4. These are going to be our drift punches. They also share the octagonal profile as we see on this one. These will begin with 99, and then we have 10-2 for our 10 millimeter, 10-3 for the 3, 10-4 for a 4mm, and lastly, we have a 10-5. Those are essentially $537 to $541 each. Essentially, all four you could pick up for about $22. So that's kind of where those would fall. They are all 120 millimeters. I should mention that. Now, the next thing that we want to take a look at is actually here at the bottom. And this is kind of cool that they include it. This is going to be part number 100-10. And what is this, you ask? Well, it is a center punch. If you're thinking, hey, that looks like there's a point on that, there is, and that's because it is a center punch. Overall dimension, 120 millimeter. It is octagonal as well. Only $5.73, which I think we spent a bit more than that for this guy, which I brought in because I wanted a solid. At work, I have solid center punches. Of course, you do have to have a hammer, mallet, something to strike and make your impression. Picked it up from Hazet, just kind of to bring it in, see what it was like. Here the two are side by side. Business end, of course, right there. And then you care about this now. Do you prefer black or gold? Do you prefer Gedore or Hazet? If anyone has used both of these or has experience, I'm curious which one is holding up better for you. And if you're wondering why I brought in the Hazet one, well, as I mentioned, all I had here at the house were these two. Now, this is my newer one, the kind of brass finished one. Working pretty good still. But this one, I don't remember if it was from Harbor Freight. I actually like the knurling on it, but it did some body work with me. If you see that weird dot there and you're like, what? You know, do you have something special you did to it? Did you modify it? Well, one, you can tell it's worn out, but two, that is actually slag. Apparently, I guess when I was doing probably the trunk floor several years ago, there's a whole lot of spot welds on the old Chryslers, if you're unaware. I would come in, I like to use the Blair spot weld cutters, but I would always kind of try to center punch them, and that basically wore this sucker out. I kept using it, though, because I was trying to keep this one in good working condition for less, rigorous work. And then finally I decided, you know what, screw it, I'm going to go get a good solid. Did that, and now we have the Gedore that we can mix and match with Hazet. The Hazet I have used, I believe, twice since I brought it in. Worked perfectly. That's just not enough volume of work for me to know if it's going to hold up, and if so, how long. So kind of cool to have something else in the mix. Now, last but certainly not least, we jump to the 119 part number, and then we're going to go -2, -3, and -5. I suppose we should use this pointer since I said we would. Important to make the logo face up for a professional presentation. But, these, of course, are nothing more than our pin punches, the classic pin punch. Price on these, interestingly, $8.50 for our 2 and 5, and then the 3 was $8.57. Don't ask me how you come up with that. But $25.57 for these 3, $21.56 cumulative total for these 4. If you want to come in and get this flat octagonal one, you'd be looking at $7.28. The crosscut, $13.27. Combined total for our cold flat chisels, $28.56. If you did the math, which you probably didn't, and you don't need to because I'm going to do it for you, everything you see here, all 12 pieces add up to $101.97. And I know what you're thinking, wait, didn't you say it was $118? I think I got it less than that, but we'll go with worst case scenario. You bring this in for $118 and you hit that realization that, geez, I would have done better if I brought these in myself, individually, piece by piece. Maybe you would never use a 2 mil, but you could have used a 4 or a 6 would have been advantageous to you, maybe something larger. That becomes a possibility when you piecemeal it yourself. The catch is, what we have that differentiates it is this wooden stand. The wooden stand, like I said, that 6-hole that we brought in, that sucker was cheap. I'm talking, I think, $6, $7, $8, somewhere in that range. So in theory, with this being double the capacity, and it does have a little bit more work done to it for the larger chisels, let's just go ahead, and it was $8.70 for the little one, exactly. I saw where I wrote it down now. So let's call that $9. Let's make this 18, just double it. Essentially, we're going by the capacity there. So if we had $18, we would be up to essentially $120. So we saved a little bit, but the bottom line remains, if you want to piece this together individually, you might actually come out ahead economically. Same thing with the 6-piece set. It's just one of those deals where unless you specifically know what size you're going to need, it's kind of a crapshoot. That's why it's nice to have variety. And typically you can make do with what you've got, unless of course it's way, way smaller than what you have, in which case you've got to bring in more tools. However, the reason I don't have a part number on this, and the reason I can't tell you what this costs, I can't find it available anywhere. It might be exclusive to this set, Vera. They do that quite a bit with some of their pouches everyone always wants to buy. You're like, man, that would be really cool. I'd like it better than the plastic. Let me buy one. It's probably not more than 12, 15 bucks. Well, it's not available without you purchasing the set. And as best I can tell, at least with what I found online from Gedore and through KC Tool, I can't find this 12-piece holder anywhere. So that kind of puts a little bit more of a premium on that one. But that is where we stand. That is what the Gedore 107 is in a nutshell. I felt like it was a pretty nice set, and again, when you consider the 6-piece set, you'd be spending, regardless of if you go plastic or the metal case, let's just say that's 50 bucks. You're coming in for about 120. I do think I got this on sale for less than that. I want to say it was around like 88 or something like that. But regardless, I felt like this was the better route. I felt like we had more value here. That's kind of why I went ahead and justified it. But what we have now is a whole lot of real estate on the back of this guy. And I'm going to tell you right now, I know what you're thinking. I mentioned the big KC Tool stickers like we used to get. They are, just like with our little one, a little bit too tall. I'll flip this around. You can kind of see what's hanging over, although I'm manipulating it a bit. It's not going to fit unless we trim it, and there's not enough material for me to trim. So what I'm thinking about doing, this little one will fit fine. I'm wondering how many of these stickers, because truth be told, I have a ton of these sticker packs. As many tool hauls as we've done, they only recently started the sticker packs. But realistically, you know, there's only so much you can put on your toolbox, you know. And so what I'm thinking we will do, I'll grab a new pack, so I'll have the Gedore sticker, which conveniently is the largest sticker, so we'll try to center it. And then I might see how many of those we can fit on this guy, and just kind of have like the backside sort of be fun and, you know, a little out of place, but hey, you know, you just flip it around, whatever you want to do. But it'll make good use of the stickers ultimately. So I will turn the camera off. I'll try to populate this sucker for you, make it look as cool as I can, and we will wrap the video up there. But overall, pretty impressed with this set. I do, again, want to stress, if funds are tight, if you know exactly what you're needing, I think you would come out economically on top to piece it together. Unless you're just hell-bent on having, you know, this wooden stand that has 12 slots, which again, these flat chisels here, the big ones, they're not going to fit in this little wooden holder. So keep that in mind. But, you know, if you want to crank something out, maybe you're a woodworker or a machinist. If you want to, you know, get a block of billet, crank it out, anodize it. If you want to go get your router and trim something out, the sky's the limit, really. But I do think this is one of those rare occasions where buying them individually might save you money. And I say that not just you're going to get 3 of these instead of 12. I'm saying you could probably get the 12 you want and save a little bit. So again, lesson learned there on my part. But let's go ahead and populate this backside and end on a high note. All right, you ready for the big reveal? True confession, symmetry matters to me. And even if I had this thing facing to the back of the workbench or the toolbox, wherever we wind up putting it, it would have been one of those things that just kind of bothered me, and it kind of bothers me as is, but there just wasn't a good way to do much more than this. And as you can see, we've got the symmetrical stuff covered. We got KC Tool, no clue how to pronounce things like Auction Comp, Ox Head. It's actually the reason I elected to use those. They are owned by Gedore, as best I know, and they're kind of like Forestry Service stuff, so axes, things along those lines, and chisels, drift punches. That's about as close as I get to needing an axe. So I thought it would kind of make sense to go that route. The KC Tool fits so good it was hard not to use it. And then I had this here. I had Gedore and Hazet, and then I thought, well, you know, I'd never really put the Hazet center punch in there because we probably use it for Gedore stuff, or at least, you know, other chisels or drift punches we had. And then over here I could fit the Stabila and Stavilla stickers fit really nice, but then nothing else did. And so instead of having it kind of be weird like that, I just sort of went for a somewhat symmetrical look. The ox head kind of overlaps KC Tool a little bit. I just did that to position Gedore more centrally located, but I think it looks okay. And we just need a little bit more real estate to make better use of everything. So what we will do now, I'll take these chisels, and again, they feel really, really good in hand. We're going to go ahead and try to populate this stand for you. Once again, I'll kind of try to hold these up one time each so you can sort of see them. Cross chisel. Pretty good stuff, I gotta say. At least initial impressions would say so. The octagon one is going to be interesting. I think I'm kind of more of a flat if I had the preference. Now I want to point out these flats, you cannot rotate them to have the part number visible on this side since it is stamped, you know, on one of the broad sides. The octagon and round punches, anything like that, you can actually orient it in that manner. So we'll come in and slide all of these home. Try to keep it to where you can kind of see it. All right, like so. Down to these guys. Realistically, I probably should have had these over there, but live and learn. We'll figure it all out. Getting heavier, I will say that. And last but not least is our new center punch. There we go. Is that a thumbnail or is that a thumbnail? I think it looks pretty good. Again, this is Gedore's part number 107, linked down below to KC Tool. I don't believe you can buy this 12-piece wooden stand, the 12-slotted wooden stand, I should say, standalone. No pun intended, but this little 6-piece you can. Now keep in mind, in order to house these flat chisels, you're going to need something a little bit more substantial. But we've got this one now, and the 12. If I come in and I decide I need a different size, the good news is all this stuff will pretty much swap in and out, whatever I decide to do. But I felt like it was a nice variety. It would be a good kind of starting point, if you will, because the truth be told, I don't have very many chisels here. The ones I do have kind of suck. I brought in some Stanley ones. They've been okay, but not something I was super impressed with. And then punches, I don't believe I have one here. I might in some like one of those super cheap toolboxes, but at work I've got a ton of punches, but at home, no. And they're definitely handy to have. I typically just find myself using odds and ends that I shouldn't be using, or screwdrivers to kind of hit pins out when I have to. So this will be a much better setup for me here at the house. If you've used this exact set, if you've used the 6-piece set, if you've just used their chisels or punches in general, how are they holding up to you? What do you think of them? How do they compare with something else you have used? If you have, say, Starrett pin punches at work, if you have Brand X, if you've got Harbor Freight, and you've used both, which one do you prefer and why? That's the most beneficial information I believe we could have out of this. That said, I will quit rambling. As always, thank you so much for watching. Again, if we were to break this down in this detail in the tool haul, the video would be ridiculous length, even by my standards. Therefore, I prefer to have a standalone. That way, if no one's interested in this, I don't expect you to watch it. If you're super interested in this and you want to investigate it before you shell out $100, then it's appreciated, and that's kind of what I try to accomplish on the channel. But I think this will be a much welcomed addition to the shop. I should get plenty of use out of it. If they suck, they're going to suck, and we're going to know pretty quick. If they're good, we'll have a good feel for that too after a couple of uses. So I got a couple of projects in mind for these actually, so we'll see how it goes, and eventually I'll probably just use them to bust spot welds and all kinds of crud. And then we'll know how they really hold up. But as always, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, I encourage you to leave a like, leave a comment. More importantly, subscribe if you have not. Tell your friends about the video, the channel, what we're doing here. Anything along those lines would be appreciated. Forum, LoneStarMopars.com/forum. We got a tool section. We got the Bit of Thinks checklist. I'll eventually start compiling all this stuff in article form for you. Similarly, you can find us at Lone Star Mopars on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. With that said, once more, links down below if you're interested in this for yourself. And with that said, it's a little after 10 now. I better get back to work here in the shop, get back in the shower, and go do work all over again tomorrow. But on that note, thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you back here for more action from the shop.